and the two astronauts stuck in space have returned to Earth. Well, more on that story. Those two NASA astronauts were stuck in space for 9 months. They are safely now back home. After a successful splashdown this morning off the Florida coast, Sonny Williams and Butch Wilmore have undergone medical checks before boarding a helicopter to Houston. To bring you more analysis of what's going on here, joining us live is the astronomer at large, Fred Watson. Fred, always good to see you. Thanks for your time. I think we're all pretty relieved for these astronauts. What sort of process do they need to go through now to readjust to life on Earth? I assume their bodies are worse for wear after 9 months in space.
They will be, yes, that's right, because, space is not very forgiving to human bodies. You suffer muscle loss, often a bit of bone density degradation, sometimes heart muscle degradation as well. So all of these things will be very, very carefully checked for the two returning astronauts, who I'm sure are delighted to be back on terra firma. I haven't seen it myself, but I understand that they were, when the capsule splashed down in the ocean, they were greeted by a pod of dolphins, which sounds perfectly appropriate.
Absolutely. And it sounds like it was a pretty smooth trip home.
That's right. Yes, it's a well tested procedure to undock the spacecraft from the International Space Station. That's the capsule that they return in. It's traveling at about almost 8 kilometers per second when it leaves the International Space Station. And so they have to slow down that velocity to something more like a walking pace. And they do that in stages. It's a 17-hour process, or it was for these returning astronauts, where you basically use the atmosphere to slow down the spacecraft. Eventually, there's that fiery re-entry where the heat shield of the spacecraft prevents it from burning up, and eventually parachutes come out to drop it safely into the ocean, as you can see now.
Now, Fred, Butch and Sonny, they had company up there, didn't they? Roughly how many people are actually up in space at any given time, and what are they all doing up there on the International Space Station for months on end?
Yes, it's normally a crew of 4, up to 6. I think 6 was more standard. There have been a few more recently, with Butch and Sonny getting stuck there. I think the maximum was 7 at one point, if I remember rightly. But they basically fitted in with the rest of the crew and carried out the tasks that the crew do, which are mainly experiments that can only be done in the microgravity of space. Sonny Williams took on a management role while she was there. She was the station commander for a while, which meant that she probably had some paperwork to do as well. But it's very much a scientific, experimental sort of environment that they're working in.
Now, a bit closer to home, Fred, I wanted to get your thoughts on the first image we've seen. It was captured by a huge new telescope that's being built. It's almost in the middle of nowhere, coming from a West Australian. It's in WA's outback. It's very difficult to get to. What did this image show us and tell us about this new telescope?
Yeah, just a background. The telescope is at the CSIRO Murchison Radio Astronomy Observatory in Yarimana Ilgari Bundara is its name in the Wadjuri language. It's on Wadjuri country. And it's been in gestation for something like 30 years. So this is a real milestone achievement. It has now got 1,024 active antennas, which will eventually spread to a total of 131,074. That's going to be the full telescope, which will probably be finished around 2030. But yes, to answer your question, what we saw with those 1,000 or so antennas was a detailed image of a pretty wide part of the sky, 25 square degrees. That's about 100 times the area of the full moon. And the image you can see on the left there is what we saw with this sort of, the precursor antenna that's now been put into action. About 80 galaxies, distant objects in the universe, which of course are among the largest objects that we can observe. But what we expect to see is depicted in the image on the right. That's not a real image. That's basically a mock-up simulation. That's about 600,000 galaxies, and these are all galaxies which we may well turn out to be seeing as they are born from the clouds of hydrogen, which basically occupied the first few 100 million years of the universe, a period when no stars shone, Ash. So we call it the Dark Ages. And the telescope eventually will penetrate to the Dark Ages and show us what the baby universe was like.
Oh, can all look forward to seeing future images. It's fascinating what they're doing out there, Fred. Really appreciate you joining us to tell us all about it. Thanks so much.
Great pleasure. Thanks, Ash.